えはいつも私の胸になんでだろうあなたを選んだ私ですもう止まらない運命様から決められたけど I believe 真似だけじゃつまらないの You be nice 感じるまま感じることだけをするよ冒険でしょでしょ本当が嘘に変わる世界で夢があるから強くなるのよ誰のためじゃない一緒に来てくださいどこまでの自由な私を見てよね明日過去になった今日の今が奇跡掴もう未来を I believe you
Hello there, people. Welcome to another Who's That Anime? With your host Steve
Hello.
and Colin. We're still talking about the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Getting good, getting good. I mean, it's
Yep.
only been how many? 7? Episode 7 of this.
We're definitely stepping down the line of how many episodes of this we've done.
Yes, yes. Coming to the end of season 1 in this one. In
Yeah.
broadcast order, not chronological.
Not the sane person's order.
Well, I don't know. Well, it makes get into it. It kind of makes sense now that once I've watched them, it makes sense, and how it sort of like not the reason why they done it in this order at all. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes no sense.
But certainly you can see that this has definitely been the right order to watch it. That was first broadcast.
Yes,
And we can
I think I can see where there would be benefit to having them in the chronological order, but I think some of the episodes benefit from not being in that order.
yeah, you'll be like, what? Why? What's happening? Okay.
Exactly.
Uh,
So today we're going to cover 2 episodes. We're going to cover The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya Part 5 and Part 6.
yes. 5 and 6. We're finally there, guys. The last 2
Shit's gonna get
episodes
crazy.
of this.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes of this 6-parter that we would have been done probably 4 or 5 weeks ago at this point, had we
Well-
been doing it in the chronological order.
Yes, week 3, because it has been like
Yeah, you're right.
2 episodes each week.
So we're only getting here 3 episodes late.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Incredible.
Anyway, so part 6 is the first one because, well, it makes sense to have that as 4, 6. That's how numbers work.
V. It's Roman numerals, so it's V.
V and then VI.
VI. Yeah.
Yeah. But not IB.
No, we've done that already.
We did that one. Yeah. Anyway, so this one here, how does it start, Steve?
Well, okay, so if I remember correctly, this one kind of starts off with, because obviously we've had that whole thing with Ryoko going fucking knife nuts on Kyon in part 4.
Yep.
And at the end of that episode, Haruhi was really keen on the idea of like figuring out where she'd transfer to and what the hell was going on, because none of it seemed right. So if I remember rightly, that the start of this episode is sort of her trying, almost like dragging Keon. It's like, we're gonna go and figure this shit out. Like, now. We're gonna go and we're gonna talk to the people that we're gonna go to her home and like break in maybe and see what's happening. And then it turns out that she weirdly lived. I'd say weirdly in quotations, I suppose. Weirdly
Like,
lived in the same building as Yuki,
yes,
where all the computer programs live.
apparently so. It's been deemed there. Yeah. So they try to get in, and then I think essentially some woman comes to the door and they go in. They sneak in. 'Cause, you know, Terry has no concept of crimes.
No, no concept of crimes and no moral compass, I believe, are the things she has going for her.
Yes, it seems that way. So she goes in, and they try the door, but obviously no one answers, or they don't know where she lives. So they go to the manager.
No, they try her door. They know which one she's in, but it's locked.
Shockingly.
Yeah, shockingly, the place that is no longer occupied by the person that owns it is one, empty, and two, locked.
Yeah, I am. I am shocked by this notion. Or here he was anyway, weirdly. So then
Yeah, for some reason she was.
then they go and talk to the custodian of the building slash the guy
Yeah.
sits in the booth that
Yep.
is, I don't know, manages security. I don't know. It's not a concept I fully understand in this country.
He's the well, it's sort of like, if I equate it to something local, the council flat blocks have a guy like him where we are.
So, sometimes, yeah.
So that guy.
Yeah. There's a reason for that.
It's a different reason, granted.
Yeah.
But it is man who stays in building at all hours.
Yeah, well, they do shifts here, that's for sure. It's not the same person.
I feel like this guy was also maybe like almost the building owner, like he was dealing with the finances of the building as well, not just like the security. So it was more like sort of a live-in job, I think, for him, which is, I guess, like you say, maybe less common here.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But he's very talkative and very willing to give up pretty much any information on previous tenants, it seems.
Yeah. Well, I wonder why. A couple of strange people and come up and ask, what happened to the person that lived here?
Yeah, we know them. Please tell us everything about them, even though we know them.
So I'd like to point out, since this has been done in broadcast order, this is set before the episode that they go to find out about the computer guy. You know how he turns into the camel cricket,
Oh yeah,
and they make a reference about, well, let's go ask the manager and just say we're close friends and we're kind of worried about him. Keon makes the comment, "Not again."
yeah.
And
Wow.
that links it to this episode. This is the time before then that she's tried this shit before.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yes, it's all linking together, all these slight links. And I think they leave and then bump into Yuki and they leave.
Yeah, because they're, oh, you live here? Yes.
And
That's
it. Yeah, pretty much. And here he makes a comment of like, "Where's your glasses?"
Well, that's right.
And then
Because we've just passed the bit where she had to regenerate everything after she got stabbed. But she forgot to reconstruct her glasses.
And then Keon makes a comment of like, "I'm not got a glasses fetish."
No, yeah. I worry about Keon. He is a mixed up guy.
Very much so. He's living a harem anime. Harem?
Arm.
Arm anime where he gets all the girls. Which kind of brings me to another thought in my head. As you said about the knife issue,
Hmm.
how would you feel about watching the anime Summer Days? Summer Days? I think it's Summer Days.
What is Summer Days?
Summer Days is just like your nice, happy-go-lucky, kind of like guy tries to get a girl, some other girl helps the guy to get the girl, he gets the girl, and then kind of like cheats on the girl, and then stuff happens. Happy days. Good old summer days. I don't want to say any more than that.
Okay.
It's,
Is it
it's an experience.
okay? How many episodes is it, Colin?
12? Maybe?
Okay, that sounds like our wheelhouse. Days. Anime.
Don't,
Oh,
don't
there's a
ring.
movie apparently.
Is there maybe a summer days? I might be wrong.
Apparently. Uh,
Might be wrong.
uh, oh no, wait, hang on. That's a visual novel.
I could be wrong with the name. I'll get
Was
back
it?
to you.
Is it called School Days?
School days?
I don't know.
Maybe.
You get back to me on that because
Okay.
I'm judging by some of the wording I read there. We may be heading back in some sort of Golden Boy territory.
No. It's not.
Okay,
It's
maybe not the right one then.
not fully on that. No.
Oh,
I
not
mean,
fully. Oh, fair enough. Okay. Yep. Sorry. Go on.
yeah. That's just it's a thought that came over my head. So, uh, so we did Yuki, met Yuki, Glassy's comment, and then they go trailing and walk about a bit more for reasons.
Yeah, this is sort of like a weird melancholy, forgive the use of the word, but part of the show where Harry seems quite down, like remembering both fondly and sadly her childhood, and talks about like how she became obsessed with the idea of the paranormal and all the different things, and like I did find that quite interesting because it goes into like talk about her feelings of insignificance in the world because she's like talking about the baseball stadium.
Mhm.
And like how she was one person among 50,000 and the population of Japan is like whatever 30 million. So like
Yeah.
nothing in significance even in that country, let alone in the world. Um, so how to stand out and how to be an individual. Although the difference between her and me is I take comfort in that.
Yeah.
Being insignificant is fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And I think you have the same viewpoint as Keon. Keon?
Yep.
Keon.
Kyon's yeah, he's just kind of indifferent to it, I guess. Like he's understanding, I think. Like she seems upset, and I think this is sort of I guess, where we're going with these next two episodes. This is kind of teeing that up a little bit uh, about where this is going to go. But
Mhm.
yeah, she basically, and again, like this is she talks about. We very rarely hear her talk about her past in any form or function. Uh, Very rarely actually talks about herself. Really, she's always just talking about things they need to do.
Yeah.
Um, so, and she just eventually is like, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going home.
Mhm.
And for a second, Keon's like, well, this is the shortest way for me to go home if I follow her. And then we see him cuts and he's just gone the other way. It's like, wow, what a jerk.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he follows her or not because the train passes at that level crossing quite frequently.
That's true. It kind of, in the way it's cut, it makes it look as like, well, I made the executive decision to not follow you because you were annoying me.
I think he just felt awkward with his response and kind of like
Yeah.
didn't want to upset her anymore.
Yeah, and of course because he knows what happens when she gets upset. So yeah, I think, which I don't think he takes particularly seriously, not like overtly seriously anyway, but I think it does guide him to a degree.
Yeah.
Not as much as it should, probably.
Yeah. Well, so he gets back to the house and Koizumi?
uh, yeah, Koizumi.
Yeah, Koizumi is there and says, "Hey, I've been waiting here for like 5 hours. how,
Yeah.
how did your thing go with Haruhi type thing?" And then he just goes like, "Well, now's the time for me to show you my powers because it only happens at certain times and it's happening now."
Told you I would. So here I am
Yeah.
with me.
Oh,
It's like, please get in this car.
yeah. He summons
Get in this car.
he summons a taxi and they travel out of town, they say, but they stay in town.
Well, yeah, it's the outskirts, I guess. Like it looks like it's like on the highways
Uh,
out of the main town.
Yeah. Or they
Oh no,
go.
you're right, because they do kind of end up at like a crosswalk bit, don't they? Because it's
Yeah, they're going to the center of town, I think.
yeah, because this is the so Q for me, a very dull 7 minutes of rambling nonsense in this episode. Like, I'm down for deep and meaningful and even bizarre and weird, but even for me, it's like the discussion of what was it called? It's the anthropic principle.
Yeah, yeah.
How it links to Haruhi, and like, sure, I don't know, it didn't land for me. I got bored.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I noticed that the taxi driver looked like the butler from the Islands episode.
I would have done if my eyes had been open at that point.
Yeah, see, you gotta keep your eyes open. Just turn off the listening.
Oh, we're trying really hard to make me not want to keep my eyes open at that point. But yeah, they have that whole conversation about the anthropic principle and how that links, and we're gonna stop right here in the middle of this crosswalk and just push through a kind of like invisible barrier, as it were.
Yeah.
And then they're basically in, what's it called, closed space.
Closed space, they're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah, which he believes this particular closed space is currently caused by Haruhi's down mood at the moment.
Yeah. Or anger. Upsetness. Yeah. And then they go on top of one of the sky rises in the area.
Yep.
And look over the expanse and they see a big shiny blue thing.
Yep.
That we kind of saw in the baseball episode.
Yes.
It was flashed back to.
Yes, it was.
Which I think is probably, once again, flashed back into this episode.
I'm not even sure if it's flashing back to that episode or is it flashing back to the next episode that we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. And then, so, basically, they do that, and then they start seeing red lights flying through it because they say, "Oh, these espers, we're a group. We're here to basically stop these monsters wrecking things and come reality type thing. So they're controlling the space and coming in and chopping it up."
Yeah. Well, they basically need to close the closed space.
Yeah.
And it seems that the espers themselves are like as well as Koizumi says, he's like, I was like normal, and then I found my powers. But the question would then be is that actually has he always been that way, and just had the first time to need them at that point? Because it seems like that. Although again, it's the chicken and the egg thing of like Haruhi's desire for there to be an interest in that stuff happening around the same time. So it's could be either way. But like they're basically drawn to the energy that space creates because it's basically calling them to shut it down, I suppose, is what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. So they're kind of, I suppose, symbolized more like fireflies drawn to a light.
That's what it looks like, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, like loads of fireflies around a big blue giant.
yeah. Which cut into bits,
They
literally.
did. Just kept kind of wrapping circles around it until it got sliced to pieces.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, and then I think it's the next day,
Yep.
or is that the end of the episode?
Uh
Oh, yeah, because I think he essentially goes to bed.
he does, yes, because the next episode starts at that point.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? He doesn't go back to the clubhouse. Basically, he goes to bed and then wakes up.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I watched this a few days back, so it's a bit hazy.
It's also not there's not a lot of really, it's kind of a boring episode. There's not a lot of substance to it because it's very expositional and providing sort of pillars of exposition really that are going to try and help explain what happens next when more stuff happens. Like
Yes.
this is purely an exposition dump of an episode with a couple of bits kind of wrapped around it.
Yeah, they certainly are going through this series of events over the last 6 episodes, so they kind of all link together. For example, what's her name was transferred, and they were going to investigate it.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
with
Ryoko?
yeah, Ryoko, and they end with part 4 with the sticker saying, "Do what you want" type thing to the SOS club.
Yeah.
Did they ratify the club? Was the club officially ratified in this episode? No, it must not be. No.
I
I think that might be the end of the next episode.
think you might be right.
Yeah, because anyway, that's the basics of this episode. Some shit happened. More about explaining stuff and trying to put a reason why stuff is happening, and then moving on to the, I suppose, more interesting episode.
Yeah, they're very closely linked. If they're basically the same episode, really.
Yeah.
How would you rate that one then as a standalone? I suppose.
Standalone.
Yes, but
I mean, that's impossible, really, because it's interlinked with all the others so closely. Like, matter of hours of difference. Yeah, it tried to explain things, and it was probably did its best to try and keep some interesting stuff in there at the same time explaining it all. I'm going to probably make it a 6.
Yep.
I don't think
we're on the wavelength again, Colin.
Yeah.
Back on the wavelength.
It did what it had to do.
Yes, it's a perfunctory episode for sure.
A perfunctory.
Yeah, it's a good word. So, I guess we then step right into it. Then is part 6. And this one. So this one. I'm trying to remember exactly how this starts off because I know what the crux of the episode, or the sort of the start of it that I remember, is essentially like Kyon waking up next to Haruhi
Yeah.
School.
Oh, I think in the last
That's the start
yeah,
I remember, but
I think the last episode ends with him in a taxi journey back home. He goes back into the house and he goes to bed, and because
yeah,
he starts talking about how people have like out of body experiences and such in sleeping
yes,
or remembering the dreams and that, and then he's like, "Well, my dream's going to be a bit different."
yep, and he's not wrong.
Yeah,
He's not wrong.
he's not wrong. So yeah, the next thing he he gets waking up. He closes his eyes, and then Hooray starts going, "Wake up, Keon, wake up!" type
Yeah,
thing. And then
that's
he
right.
wakes up, and then he's in the schoolyard with Hooray, and it's all dark, like it's still nighttime slash like a closed space, because the closed space was quite dark and dull when they walked
Yeah,
into it. Didn't
there's
have
no
any light.
noise. Like it's completely silent.
Yeah,
It's voice of other people. Um, yeah, and of course, I think the interesting because so from appearances right now, it's just that they've kind of they've awoken in this closed space. Um, they try to walk out of the closed space, or well, they try to leave the school. Essentially, they don't know they're in a closed space, but they try to leave the school and they find that barrier that he had walked through in the previous episode, but the other way around.
yeah,
But they're not able to leave this time.
yeah. They're not able to leave. And I think Keon kind of recognizes his closed space from his experience earlier in the day. It's like,
Yeah, he doesn't want
ah,
to say.
yeah, he's not allowed to say. And also, I'm not sure in the last episode, did they explain that they think that this is how Harry reshapes the world? Essentially, the closed space.
I think that's yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to is like the reason that it's so dangerous that what she's doing or what she can do is that her boredom essentially she's sort of like a deus ex machina.
All
She
right.
just she's just the answer to every boredom she has. She just decides that, well, subconsciously decides that there needs to be a clean slate, I guess. And that
Yeah,
if those pockets of closed space become wide enough, then you know that's it. The two because of course they exist in the same universe, I guess, at this point, even though there's different space. But once closed space occupies too much of the world, it starts again.
yeah.
I think it Koizumi, when because he kind of comes into this at some point, I think explains a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah, I think he does. So, yeah, so they try to leave the school and from all exits and find that they can't hit the barrier.
Yeah,
And then they go investigating around the school, inside the school building, and find out they can't. No one's there. They can't even make phone calls. Harry's getting a bit scared,
yeah,
a bit upset, and then they go back to the clubhouse and have some tea. I think Harry says she's going to do something. She goes alone, and then this is where Cosme comes in. He goes, "Oh, I can't enter this place as I normally could. It's kind of locked out,
yeah.
and it's like the big one, guys. This is world destroying. We're getting a bit worried."
Well, yeah, that's he kind of comes to say his goodbye, essentially. Like him and he's basically saying goodbye for him and um, Yuki and Mikuru because he's saying it's like I can't come in here and the way this is going, it doesn't seem like this is gonna flip. Uh, and I think he kind of gives him that warning. It's like, look, I think it might just be you guys in here for a little while on your own, but you'll start to notice that things will return to normal
Oh,
in quotations where like the world will start to be populated with different things, and I think it sort of reminded me a little bit of the Matrix, the way they went in that, where like when he meets the architect
Mhm.
and he explains to him, it's like, well, you're the one now, but you're not the first one. There have been many ones before you that have tried to do this, and like it just keeps going in a cycle. So the question, I suppose, that kind of question comes to mind is like, how many times is this reset?
Yeah. Well, that's it though. That's kind of what's been like a few of the questions through the past episodes is like all we know is like 3 years ago this kind of that we were aware of, but its potential has been a
There,
lot more than that.
there's one for sure.
Yeah.
It would seem.
Yeah. So yeah, Koizumi's there. There seems to be power in the computer because he powers up the computer. Well,
He tells. Uh, how does Yuki tell, or does he knows to look at the computer? Is
yeah.
it because Koizumi tells him, or is it because Yuki
So
told him already and
something
we've missed it?
did you tell him?
I suppose it doesn't really matter. The point being is, though, is that he knows that there's something about using the computer that's going to give him something, but he doesn't know what.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think Koizumi
And
told him. Like,
yeah, and then of course Koizumi disappears off this plane. He's now gone. He doesn't have the energy to remain there anymore. So Kyon turns to the computer to try and find out some answers.
yeah. And then Yuki's on the other end of the computer.
Yes. Yeah, she is.
And then did she say Sleeping Beauty? So
She does.
yeah. And
Sleep. So this is the second reference because, of course, Mikuru from the future asked him earlier on if he knew the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
yeah.
And this is the second sort of fairy tale reference that we've had. But it doesn't go into any more detail than that. It just mentions the name, and then I think that's the last thing that Yuki's able to say
Yeah.
before she stops being able to communicate with the world inside the closed space.
I think so, yeah. Um
I think, is it at this point when the blue giant appears, or blue giants plural?
one blue giant appears
One.
and I think Keon sees it and Harry sees it and kind of like, oh, what's that? Type thing.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah. And then he comes and like goes, no, let's get out of here. Pulls her away before it smashes the building up or something.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, this is interesting. I like this place. This weird, desolate, empty space with these giant blue creatures. This seems fun and
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
No.
Skullworth here. Um
Very quickly, one might add.
yeah. And then she kind of wants to be in space with Keon. Is that a feel I
Yeah.
get from it?
Well, I think that I suppose that's the interesting thing is that both Kyon and I guess like Yuki, Mikuru, and Koizumi have always questioned. It's like, or they maybe more specifically know. It's like you do know. It's like she's chosen you. You're the one that she like. Whatever that has to be, like whether it's romantic or not, you're the person that she's choosing to drag through these situations.
Yeah.
You're the sort of part of her her interest, or like whatever her zest for life is. Like she doesn't see that without him for some reason.
Yeah,
Like whatever that might.
exactly. Um so and then so they kind of start running away from the big blue giant as it smashes up the school.
Yeah.
And then another few giants appear to start smashing up the school a bit more.
Yep.
And then something happens.
So they're running away, I think.
Yeah.
But I think like Haruhi is trying to. I seem to remember it as like this kind of contradictory thing of where she's running away from obviously the crashing and smashing, but is like really keen on the idea. You know, she's like, but what's so bad about this? And Kyoen's dragging her away through it, and he's like, you know, wouldn't it be nice to go back to the way things were and like tell everyone about this? And she's like, maybe not. Like, why would we do that? And they kind of stop, I think, in the middle of like a baseball field or soccer field or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I can't remember. I feel like it's I can't remember because the whole thing has been leading to like him. This seems like it's it. Like there's almost no going back at this point, and the whole world is going to collapse or whatever it is that's going to happen is going to happen. It's going to restart. Is he going to wake up tomorrow and life will be back to normal, but not normal? But really, it is kind of. And I think it's that at this point where it sort of clicks with him about what the clues were from Yuki and Mikuru about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Sleeping Beauty is it's a kiss. So I can't remember. I think it's like he starts off that conversation with telling her that she looked cute with a ponytail. He
Yeah.
said it was criminal how good you looked with the ponytail.
Yes, I believe it was something along those lines. Yeah.
And then they kiss,
Mhm.
and that, you know, just like in sort of Disney fairy tales, kind of just stops everything. I guess it fixes the problem.
Yeah. So that kind of happens, and then they both wake up in respectable places, and he comes to school next day. Everything's
He
back to
falls out of
normal.
his bed, like fully out of his bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
He properly is ejected from his bed, which is pretty great.
And then yeah, so he goes to school, meet her up, and she says she's had this crazy dream type thing. And then essentially, I think it ends with him saying, "Oh, you look good with that ponytail," because she's wearing a ponytail.
Yeah, I think it's that thing of like there's a conversation with Koizumi because I don't think he's quite sure if things have changed or not.
Yeah.
Like because he talks about things 3 years ago, and it's like the 3 years ago is his powers, right? That's when that first manifested for him. 3 years ago for Mikuru is when she time traveled back to that exact time, and 3 years ago is when Yuki came to Earth to monitor Harui. So, I suppose the thing is that they must have all had consciousness before 3 years ago. It's just that their path in life changed at that point to be
Yeah.
focused that way. So I guess it's really difficult for the three of them to tell whether anything has changed or not, like whether the world has been recreated or not, because they still remember the before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm conflicted because, of course, as you say, like she's wearing a ponytail, which, you know, I don't know whether that's supposed to suggest that that was a positive and as a result things remained, or if it's that because that comment was made in that plane of existence that it just continued from there. And I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean,
Weirdly.
not really. Yeah, because kind of like ends in that plane. They go back to school. Everything kind of getting rectified, and this episode ends like it's an end of the anime series. Everything's been
Yeah.
resolved.
Well, it does. It does like a. That was one thing I noticed. I think it's in this one where there's a sort of an end credit bit that's running through the episode, like towards the end credit music starts with about 4 minutes to go, and it's kind of cutting in and out of credits and people talking and credits and people talking. So like it's very obviously supposed to be the
Well,
last part of that.
the last episode, yeah, very much.
But I think like it is an interesting question because I honestly can't tell you whether I think that everything did change or not. And further to that, I also can't tell you whether that matters or not. Because even if it did change, it would have changed so minimally.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what this whole show is kind of like about. In the sense of
Is that
like
nothing matters?
nothing really matters. It's all one big depression.
I mean, I think I suppose it's interesting because it does come down to that point where obviously like the change 3 years ago was so significant that it was like she drew things to her. Like
Yeah,
so and doing that like changed the course of those people's existence because they're sort of like planets orbiting her. Like
yeah,
they kind of exist around her orbit.
yeah,
And they might as well go into a cupboard and charge up. Like I know Yuki pretty much does that, but everyone else might as well do that as well.
yeah,
Um, but again, like I suppose it then goes to question is like, how many times has that changed then? Like,
um,
you know, the espers wouldn't know potentially, right? Or maybe they would,
well, I
but I guess
think
they couldn't tell, right?
depends how much they remember each change.
But even if they remember everything, right? In this circumstance, which I think Koizumi does, he seems to be talking very openly about the fact that this has happened,
Mhm.
but
And
it's not clear about whether things have changed or not because of it.
yeah,
Ultimately, I suppose that normally they know when they've been successful because they've been the reason it hasn't been successful in changing because they've stopped it from happening.
mhm. There were stuff in the big tons, but yeah, the smaller
Yeah,
ones.
in this instance, they couldn't.
Yeah,
So
and who knows? Kind of kind of weird because this is obviously set in like chronological. So in the chronological order, this is like the first 6 episodes of the season.
yeah,
So there's a
I
big
just
kiss.
like can't imagine that.
Yeah, it seems weird because Keon obviously kisses Huri in that scene and obviously make a connection with her on that, and then basically kind of ignores her mainly in the rest of the season,
Yeah, I mean, so
except
here's
from
the
except from the last one in season 2, the Summer Rains, where they kind of like
yeah, where there's a kind of thing between them. But I think that's the interesting thing to me is that if you watch it in the chronological order, what you end up with is a very info dump experience of just so much knowledge between whether it's time travelers, espers, or aliens. Like there's so much going on, and then that all just goes away to a degree. Like none of it matters, and the SOS brigade is pretty much everything at that point. Like it's hijinks at high school. It's not it's not the same. It's not the same sort of the stakes are not the same in these instances.
yeah,
So it's sort of it feels like they looked at it and went, it's like, oh, it gets very sort of, why would anyone continue to watch this after that? Like, and I'm not saying that the episodes are bad because some of the ones I think are better in that section, but I think it's just that idea that they kind of gave everything at once at the start of it and then petered out.
yeah,
Whereas if this way, then they like sort of stage that shock value in the story in a way that I think is maybe more entertaining.
yeah. I think that's it. I think it's certainly all over the place if you watch it in the broadcast order and where you are and what time period you are. Because I think, well, we're in the springtime or something. Is it springtime they go to high school?
Yes, because it talks about it. So it must be like April or May, actually, because they talk about
It's getting
because it
warmer.
comes up to like October and later on like December. The last one, Someday in the Rain, is set in December. So
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you're right. Like at the start, they're talking about how it's getting warmer, and then like a few episodes in, there's the bit about them being on summer break, and
Yeah.
they're the only club doing things, and yeah, so it takes place over like the latter part of a year, I think, like the latter half of a year.
Yeah. And it goes up. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. It's all like something that's happening in an entire year.
Yeah, it's I I think uh I think I would be happy if there were no more episodes at this point.
If,
I would have been happy if there were. Yeah, I think like
yeah.
it's neat enough.
Mhm.
Like you very much sort of told the story I think you're trying to tell, uh, and I think that's fine. Um, Not saying I wouldn't be interested in more, but like I think you could have probably stopped there and just said, yeah, I think we've done what we needed to do.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the first that 6 episodes is like, yeah, that's good enough as on its own type face value.
Could have been a movie.
Yeah, they could have maybe put more into it. Never read the manga, so
So there's another thing is that I should probably look to maybe do that at some point to fill in some of the blanks.
possibly it depends how much they missed out of it, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of bits and pieces that they had to cut out. So,
Yeah.
although I did just finish watching Invincible the other day,
Hmm.
and a friend sent me a photo of the Invincible books stacked on top of each other, and the person had like taken a handful of pages, like maybe about this thick, off the top, and it's like, so that's what you've just watched. It's like, oh god, there was so much happened in those maybe 50 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think this is just the first book or something of it
Jeez.
that we watched.
Yeah, that's
'Cause I just finished
tough.
that's what I did on the weekend. I think Monday instead of doing the show. I think I watched popped Invincible on.
It's
It's
good.
it's a train wreck right at the end though. Literally a train wreck.
You mean in a bad way, or just it's very difficult to watch? Because it gets pretty difficult to watch.
It gets very intense right at the end. I mean,
There's yeah, that show is fucking rough. Like it starts rough and it ends rougher.
you think it starts rough?
The end of that first episode is fairly rough.
It's at the end of the first episode he does it.
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
it
Yeah.
it bolts out the gate like a nightmare, and then it trundles along in this awkward space for 5 or 6 episodes, and then just jumps off a cliff at the end.
Yeah. I like the bit where the space alien comes to the planet.
Yeah, it's Seth Rogen.
So that's Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
I like the way he comes in and goes, yeah, yeah, I'm just making sure you guys are how you guys doing and how you're able to protect yourself type of thing.
yeah,
Earth.
yeah.
Earth. No, this is Earth. What? No.
Oh shit, wrong planet.
Coming
Yeah,
here.
it's so good. Like I would, we we'll go to a slight tangent here. I was genuinely shocked at the quality of the writing and the voice cast, and the animation is really good in points and a bit rough in others, but like I understand like its budget, and animation does not normally run at 44 minutes an episode. So like they were they were doing a lot to make those things happen.
Yeah,
Like
there are long ass episodes like
I mean it's like what is that? Like
44 minutes.
44 minutes times 8.
Oh. Uh
It's like
maybe
6 hours.
yeah, 6 hours.
6 hours of animation they did.
240 minutes, yeah.
It's real good.
No,
Like
wait,
they did a
that's a lie. 320.
yes,
That's what
they
4
did a they
times
did a
8
bang up
is.
job. They did
Yeah.
a they did a uh, really good job.
It's probably closer to 77 hours. No, wait, I'm talking shit. Doing shitty fucking
Oh,
maths.
just do your 15s. Do your 15s.
15s.
Yeah, like it's it's 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Take 15 minutes. 8 15 minutes is 2 hours.
Yeah, okay. We'll do it
If
that
it
way.
had been hours, it would have been 8 minus 2 is 6.
Yeah, must be about 360 minutes then. There you go. I'm doing good with maths.
At school, I did maths in higher,
Uh-huh.
um, which I was sad about because I figured out, after the point where it stopped being about basic arithmetic, that I had a problem, that I couldn't do it. So I passed
Uh-huh.
just. And then I was like, I can do better than that. And then I went back another year and failed it. So, ta-da! Did
Oh,
worse.
that's not too bad. My standard grade maths, I managed to get a 4, where I got a 1 in my investigation and a 2 in one of my papers, and my overall score came a 4 because I got a 7 in the other paper.
Oh God.
I got a fail in one of the
The
papers.
Scottish education system grading spectrum hilarious.
I don't know. And then they weren't allowed to appeal it, so I had to do a 2-year higher. But that's before you guys.
A 2 year higher.
Yeah, so you kind
That's
of did.
bullshit. I wish I'd done that though, because I did well enough to fool myself into thinking I'd be fine at hires, and then was miserable in 5th year. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2-year higher is essentially just like you did some modular stuff,
yeah.
and then that kind of should have progressed you onto the higher side of things. I suppose it did, but it was a pain because kind of wouldn't mind doing that in 5th year.
No, I probably would have done better doing that than doing the whole hog 1 year and then doing it again and then doing worse.
Yeah, and then get my registration teacher, homeroom teacher, what you want to call him,
Yep.
as my maths teacher, and boy was I ever late for school.
Well, as someone who has worked with you at some point in my life, I find that to be believable. Because, as you well know, when you and I used to work together, that you used to live maybe 500 yards away from the office.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think a bit more than that. I think it's technically maybe half a mile.
So, like, that's yeah, half a mile. Okay, few more yards maybe, but point being, I was 5 miles away and on time.
Yeah, I've worked out a thing with me in timekeeping. The closer I am to the place of work, the later I get up,
Which, yep.
and
See,
therefore
there's your problem.
more likely to be late. Hence why I now live 20 miles away from my work and arrive on time. Yeah. So why don't you move closer to work? People say it's like, no, that's a bad idea.
That's like, because then I wouldn't have a job to go to.
Yeah, I'd be late all the time.
I need to live within, uncomfortable commuting distance in order to retain a job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So I digress. So yes, Invincible's a good show. Your timekeeping's not great. My math certainly sucks.
My maths wasn't much better today, that's for sure.
So
uh,
that's the end of the first season, but I guess we haven't rated the episode yet. How do you rate this one?
I enjoyed this one. I'm going to
Yep.
put it to a 9. because it's a good closer of the season.
I'm gonna go with an 8, but it is it's very close to higher. I thought they did a really good job of summarizing like a lot of the intrigue and the mystery and you know, I think there were some genuinely good character moments. They're pretty good. I like the kind of I think I like the juxtaposition of the conversations that Haruhi and Kyon were having in part 5, like those depressing and sad conversations where they just couldn't connect, because she was trying desperately to connect to him, and then it kind of changed and flipped on this one where he was like desperately trying to connect with her.
Yeah,
So it was really interesting because, you know, it was that it was his not his unwillingness in the previous one, but I just think his discomfort of everything. It was just like, I don't need this. But then yeah, in this one it was like, you know, it's what she wanted, and he realized it's what he wanted as well, in that kind of way. So like it's
yeah.
obviously like there's pressure, there's pressure to do the thing to not make the world end, but yeah, it felt a little bit like a good ending, I think.
Yeah, I certainly think they're both essentially depressed in their own way and kind of on the same wavelength. You know, he started the whole scene with him going, "Yeah, at a very early age, I became cynical and didn't believe in any of this fantasy nonsense and stuff like that." And then where she kind of lets go in part 5 and says, "Yeah, I kind of realized I'm insignificant in the world, and I don't really want that." And it's kind of the same
Yeah,
wavelength.
you're right. It's they're two sides of the same coin. It's just with a different attitude. It's like one of them just doesn't want to engage with it, and one of them wants to desperately engage.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an but yeah, for this almost for the same reason. It's like I found out I'm insignificant and I'm okay with that. I found out I'm insignificant and that bothers me. So it's like this common inflection point that drives them as characters, but sort of they kind of need each other in that, where it kind of keeps them on an even keel a little bit.
yeah. So he's kind of like the opposite of Harry and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. Sure. So that's it. That's the first season done.
yeah, first season, all 14 episodes. Next,
We will be back with a shorter episode because we're going to try and I don't know if we've talked about this in the show before. I can't remember if we discussed this on recording or not, but because the order that it goes in, we didn't want to do 2 episodes and one of those be one of the parts of an 8-parter. So what we want to do is be able to do 4 episodes all around that 8-parter, which is the Endless 8, which is a kind of the reason we chose this in the first place, I think.
yeah, it was the kind of reason. It was like, it got a lot of backlash at this monotonous repeating 8 episodes.
Yeah, there's a lot of like it's weird for a show that seems to be like quite fondly remembered by a lot of people. There's definitely a lot of controversy around things like like the second season itself, like it diverting so much so from the kind of tone that the first season had set, and also like even the order of watching them is controversial in itself to a lot of people of like the right way to watch it. And of
Yeah,
course you can't go back and change the way you watched it the first time. So like we're doing this way now. We can go back and watch it chronologically, but we already know.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Um, I feel like I don't want to state declaratively that I feel like this is the way to watch it because it's the entertainment factors there for me. Like it's confusing and weird, and it jumps and it hints and teases in ways that it was maybe not even meant to, but does. So, but yeah, so we're going to come back and we're going to do a short episode on the first episode of season 2 in the broadcast order, which is Bamboo Leaf Rhapsody. So we'll be back to discuss that one episode, and then we're going to come back for the next episode after that to discuss the first 2 parts of Endless 8.
yeah. The whole Endless 8 thing. Anyway.
Gonna be something.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up then, Steve.
Yep. So I guess you are listening to this. You are probably listening to it in podcast form, most likely. You're listening to us on Anchor FM. You could be listening to us on Pocket Cast, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. We're available pretty much wherever podcasts are. You can find us. Eventually, we're going to have like a video archive and things like that of these up and running on YouTube. We're just working on that right now. I'll post the links as soon as we can, and I'll probably post them on the Facebook page, which is a nice little segue to our Facebook page, where we post little things like just anime memes, but also just to let you know that new episodes and things have gone live when they do. New episodes at the moment are coming out Thursday evenings and Sunday evenings. That's, I think, the intended cadence that we'd like to move forward with. So we're going to try and do 2 episodes a week. I think we'd initially done it just to power through this more quickly, and rather than belabor working on this show for 4 months or however long it would have taken us to get through it. But yeah, I think that feels like a good pace to work at for us to remember more or enjoy more about the show. If you would like to watch some video games being played, Colin has a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/couchfuel, where he will play live streams sometimes on Monday evenings, sometimes just randomly as well. If you'd like to see an archive of that, including myself and some of our other friends playing video games, you can find that on YouTube. Just search for Couchfuel. Sometimes I play horror games on Twitch. I'm at twitch.tv/HailPayman. You can find me playing some random horror games sometimes, and I just upload them to YouTube too. So there's a YouTube link there as well. Just look for the channel Hail Payman. And like I say, we don't have any advertisers. We don't get any money from this. In fact, we lose money doing this because we have subscription services and VPNs and equipment costs, but we enjoy doing this. If you enjoy what we do, it would be really cool if you would leave us a review. Doesn't need to be 5 stars, doesn't need to be a diatribe about how much you love the show. It could be constructive criticism, it could be a lower rating. Totally fine with that. Just nice to engage with people. And also, if you get a chance, maybe tell a friend if you like what we do. That'd be nice.
Yeah. And hopefully enjoying the episodes. So, on that note, I suppose it's be goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And
Is that...
what?
It's a goodbye from me, and that's a goodbye from me. What's that from?
2 Ronnies?
Oh, it is?
I think it's 2 Ronnies. Or it's Morgan and Wise.
Yeah, it's a goodbye from me, and it's a goodbye from him.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And him.
And then me. Quality
awesome.
British humor from the 80s backwards.
Before even our time is what we're laughing at right now, pretty much, to be honest.
Many reruns on the BBC of that. Anyway, see you next time, guys.
See you next time.
Do you think I'm a normal high schooler?
Huh? I don't know. Normal high schoolers don't go around pushing girls down in classrooms, know what I'm saying? Especially Yuki Nagato, who according to my ranking system scores about A-.
I shall explain myself. Tamaguchi's memory of the events was a complete fiction, a fantasy, merely a dream. Nagato's the victim of Haruhi, who's turned the literary club into her lair. Upset by this turn of events, she merely consulted me for advice. I sympathized with the poor girl and agreed to help out as best I could. After Haruhi'd gone, we decided to meet in the classroom so that we could discuss her options. That's when Nagato, an anemic all her life, suffered a seizure. She toppled over, and as I lunged to prevent her from falling to the hard linoleum floor, you came walking through the door, Tamaguchi. Once you find out the truth about something, 10 to 1, it's always going to turn out to be something trivial.
You liar.